This one's wife. Protect children. Balls to that. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Yesterday, I provided you with a comprehensive analysis of the evidence which demonstrates the hypocrisy of this one's wife in relation to her declaration that she is a protector of children, that she is an advocate for defending children in the online environment. I provided you with the clear evidence where she has, time and time again, held herself out as being a defender of children, and then, through her own behaviour, again supported by evidence, and the behaviour of Chrissy Teigen, who she has collaborated with in respect of her forthcoming Part 2 of Series 1 with Love Meghan, demonstrates further that her words are the empty words of a mid-range type A narcissist. Her own behaviour in terms of the bullying that she has engaged in demonstrates she is a hypocrite. But the fact is that as a consequence of engaging with an individual who has been shown to be an online bully, not an accusation, not speculation, they were her tweets, and we have seen the evidence. The fact that this one's wife deemed that it was appropriate to invite this individual onto her program and be seen sharing the screen with her tells you everything you need to know, assuming you hadn't reached this conclusion already, that she is a narcissist who cares nothing for the fate of other people other than herself. Any individual that seeks to defend her in light of this decision is quite frankly a clown, an idiot, and quite possibly dense, thick as mince. Some of you may not be familiar with who Chrissy Teigen is. If you're wondering why I say that in relation to her name, it's because she isn't sure how to pronounce her own surname. And sometimes she's referred to herself as Teigen, sometimes Teigen, and sometimes Teigen. And therefore, to ridicule this moon-faced arsehole, I have taken to labelling her as Chrissy Teigen every single time I say her name, similar to how, whenever I mention James Corden, arsehole, that additional word always appears. But as I mentioned, some of you may not be fully familiar with who Chrissy Teigen is. She is a narcissist. She is an online bully. And in order to further your education and just let you understand what an odious, unpleasant human being she is, I'm going to provide you with further evidence in support of that. I know that there are many of you who access all different types of my videos, and there are also some of you who are really just focused on this one's wife. But given the collaboration between Chrissy Teigen and this one's wife, it certainly behooves you to understand more about the satellite dish-faced former model. By understanding what she is and how she behaves, you will not only understand more about narcissism, but it will also drive home what a despicable individual this one's wife is. So, I'd invite you to settle back and indulge yourself as I take you on a tour of an analysis and explanation of all of the various behaviours of Chrissy Teigen, so you can understand what she is and understand the dynamic between her and this one's wife.
Part 1. Chrissy Teigen, the lady who's not sure how her surname should be pronounced, never a good sign, has recently come across the Tudor desk as a consequence of issuing some kind of apology for being a naughty lady and engaging in some online trolling. We're going to come back to that. But first of all, let's have a little run through and find out who Chrissy Teigen is. Christine Diane Teigen, born in 1985, is an American model and television personality. She made her professional modelling debut in the annual Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue in 2010, and later appeared on the 50th anniversary cover alongside Nina Ragdal and Lily Aldridge in 2014. She formerly appeared as a panellist on the syndicated daytime talk show Fab Life. She co-hosts the musical competition series Lip Sync Battle with LL Cool J, and serves as a judge on the comedy competition series Bring the Funny. Tegan Teigen has also authored 2 cookbooks. Tegan Teigen was born in Delta, Utah. Her mother, Vileluk, is from Thailand, while her father, Ron, is an American of Norwegian descent. Her surname is usually pronounced Teigen. Despite this, she stated that she prefers the pronunciation Tegan, and because I'm such a kind soul, I'll allow her to use both. After she was born, Tegan Teigen and her family relocated to Snohomish, Washington, where her parents ran a tavern. When Tegan Teigen was 15, her father relocated them to Huntington Beach, California, after her mother returned to Thailand. During this time, Tegan Teigen worked at a surf shop, where she landed a modelling campaign with clothing company Billabong through the shop's clients, and was discovered by a photographer. Apparently, she was a briefcase model in a game show Deal or No Deal during the pilot and first season. She was named Rookie of the Year when she appeared in Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue in 2010. Following year, she designed and debuted a capsule collection with swimwear designer Danelia Brazil at Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week Swim in Miami, as well as appeared as a featured character in the 2011 electronics art video game Need for Speed: The Run. She also filmed a cooking channel special titled Cookies and Cocktails. Dungeons & Dragons is far more effective and snappier. 2 years later, she was the host of the competition series Model Employee on VH1. She was also featured on another cooking channel special titled Chrissy Teigen's Hungry, detailing her wedding menu, tasting with then-fiancé John Legend. I know it's Legend. I always enjoy saying Legend. In October 2013, she appeared in Legend's music video for the song All of Me. How quaint. Which also features footage from their wedding. How delightful. In April 2014, Tegan Teigen played a fictionalized version of herself as a relationship counsellor, in an Inside Amy Schumer sketch. The same year, she appeared on the 50th anniversary cover of the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue with Nina Ragdal and Lily Aldridge. In January 2015, Tegan Teigen guest starred on the sitcom The Mindy Project as the girlfriend of the man who took the main character's virginity. Oh, the things to be known for. In April, she became a co-host of the musical competition series Lip Sync Battle. In 2015, she co-hosted the Billboard Music Awards with Ludacris. From September 2015 until June 2016, Tegan Teigen was a food stylist. Food stylist? What's that? How you dress the garnish? Fascinating. And panellist on Tyra Banks' syndicated daytime show Fab Life. In February 2016, Tegan Teigen published a book titled Cravings: Recipes for All the Food You Want to Eat, which went on to become a New York Times bestseller and the second best-selling cookbook of the year. The following year, she released a clothing line in collaboration with the fashion company Revolve. In September 2018, Tegan Teigen released her second book, the imaginatively entitled Cravings: Hungry for More. Fuck me. I can imagine some advertising executive snorted up half of Bolivia, got his red-rimmed specs on, hair in a ponytail, and says, Tegan Teigen, I know what we'll call it. Cravings: Hungry for More. Brilliant. Simultaneously, she released a line of cookware through Target. The following year, Tegan Teigen appeared as a judge for the comedy competition series Bring the Funny. In November, Tegan Teigen launched a cooking website, Cravings. I'm sensing a theme here by Chrissy Teigen, which features recipes as well as restaurants and entertaining tips. Chrissy's Court, a courtroom-style series starring Tegan Teigen, debuted in April 2020. Tegan Teigen also serves as an executive producer for the series. A little bit of politics now, as Ben Elton used to say. Tegan Teigen identifies as a feminist and intends on raising her children as such. She's had some involvement with a non-profit organisation, Planned Parenthood, has made some donations. She's a supporter of immigrants' rights. She doesn't like former US President Donald Trump. She endorsed Joe Biden. She was engaged to singer John Legend in December 2011 after 4 years of dating. The couple first met while filming his 2006 music video for the song Stereo, in which he played his love interest. They married in September 2013, celebrated their wedding on September 14th in Como, Italy. Legend's song All of Me was dedicated to her. They reside in Beverly Hills, next door to the Clampetts, in California. Teigen and Legend have 2 children, a daughter born in April 2016 and a son born in May 2018. In 2020, the couple was expecting a third child, but Teigen suffered a stillbirth in September. So a little bit of background there on this individual. So essentially the cookie cutter character of somebody who is reasonably good looking, somebody who then can walk in a straight line backwards and forwards whilst wearing swimwear, a particularly talented addition to the sum total of human endeavour, and then as a consequence of this has evidently got a degree of ability when it comes to presenting, and therefore has been involved in cooking and presenting and some cooking and a bit more cooking and some more presenting and a little bit more presenting, and has made a name for herself in that regard, with the usual spin-offs of bucks, swimwear lines, no doubt a fragrance knocking around somewhere, and so forth. Fair play. She's made something of her life. But things turn a bit of an interesting turn as a consequence of her prolific behaviour on social media. As I've explained previously, social media is a complete playground for our kind. It enables us to extend our reach worldwide. There's always somebody that could be ensnared at any time of day or night. It enables our reach to be extensive, it's fast, it's low energy, and of course, narcissists are able, in certain instances, to portray themselves as something different to which that they are, or they appear as the person that they are, but it enables them to assert control to a wide range of people through a tweet, or a Facebook post, or an Instagram post, and Snapchat post, and so on and so forth, drawing fuel from supporters, followers, both in terms of positive admiration, affection, approval, and of course, disapproval and contempt and spite and hatred from those who don't like the relevant individual. But either way, it's all good as it's fuel. And of course, many people take to social media, and that doesn't mean that all of them are narcissists, but what it does mean is that social media is an instrument that enables the narcissist to achieve the prime aims, either consciously or unconsciously. And so, in order to understand more about this analysis of Chrissy Teigen, we go back in time a little to Thursday, 25th of March 2021, and an article from Sky News which tells us Chrissy Teigen quits Twitter, saying she has been left deeply bruised by its negativity. She said she turned into a different human as a result of online abuse. The article explains Chrissy Teigen has deleted her Twitter account, saying she has been left deeply bruised, exaggeration, by negativity on the platform. Teigen, 35, had 13.7 million followers and is well known for her colourful social media presence, extensive reach, assertion of control, drawing of fuel. But late on Wednesday, she tweeted for the last time, saying it was time to say goodbye, as Twitter had made her a different human. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but despite the reach of Dorsey, Twitter can't actually make you somebody different. In actual fact, that's blame shifting, saying, I am not accountable for my behaviour, lack of accountability, and in actual fact, something else made me turn into the thing that I behaved as. Now, in certain instances, an individual can be affected by an external stressor, which causes their behaviour to appear in a particular way, so that they may behave in an obnoxious manner, an angry manner, an unpleasant manner. That doesn't mean that that person is a narcissist. It means that in that instance, you could be dealing with a narcissist who's responding to a threat to control, or the individual has suffered a diminution and reduction of their emotional empathy as a consequence of an external stressor, resulting in their narcissistic traits coming to the fore. Take, for example, you go along to your local convenience store, and inside there's a lady, and she's kicking off with the storekeeper. She's hurling insults at him, throwing around cans of beans, trying to get onto the counter to take money from the till, and is behaving in a very aggressive and nasty way towards him. Narcissist or no? We can't really judge from that one instance. It's merely an indicator and is not determinative. One has to look at a pattern of behaviour over time. That individual might be a narcissist who has responded to a threat to her control through the exhibition of ignited fury, which has manifested to cause her to assert control through the hurling of insult, triangulation, physical violence, exhibiting a sense of entitlement, trying to take money, which is a residual benefit. Or it might be that this lady has serious financial problems, that she's just lost her job, her husband's unable to work because he's long-term ill, she's got 4 children to look after, and she's tried to buy something and her card has been rejected and it's tipped her over the edge. And therefore the financial pressure and the domestic pressure and the concern about her ill husband has reduced her emotional empathy. So her narcissistic trait of argumentativeness, her narcissistic trait of anger has come to the fore, causing her to lash out. So there are different explanations that exist where we look at something in isolation. And therefore what we need to do, of course, is look at a pattern of behaviour. And here, as I will continue to demonstrate, it isn't the case that Twitter has actually caused her to become somebody else. Not at all. That is the blame shifting that has occurred. The article continues. She wrote, "Hey, for over 10 years, you guys have been my world. I honestly owe so much to this world we have created here. Grandiosity, flattery. I truly consider so many of you my actual friends." Magical thinking. That's horseshit. You don't know these people. They can't be your actual friends. But it's time for me to say goodbye. One thing you'll notice about narcissists is that in certain instances, they really do like to announce their departure from things. Just, if you're going, just fuck off. Don't wander off at a glacial pace. I honestly owe so much to this world we have created here. I truly consider so many of you my actual friends. But it's time for me to say goodbye. This no longer serves me as positively as it serves me negatively. And I think that's the right time to call something. Bit of word salad there. My life goal is to make people happy. Grandiosity. The pain I feel when I don't is too much for me. Pity play. Martyrdom. I've always been portrayed as a strong clap-back girl. But I'm just not. Demonstration of insecurity. Pity play. The TV personality, who has 2 children with Song of John Legend, received widespread praise for sharing emotional images following her recent miscarriage. And the Sky News article provides a picture of Teigen posting a picture of herself crying on a hospital bed following a recent miscarriage. Now, of course, a miscarriage is an event which causes considerable upset and distress for those that suffer them. But it's a private matter, and splashing it all over social media is again the assertion of control, pity play, triangulation. There are those, of course, who say, well, miscarriages are something that are not spoken about, and it's good to bring attention and awareness to it. Yes, that can be done in a particular way, in a constructive way. But where a narcissist is doing it, you'll invariably find that there's no boundary recognition, that it's all about the narcissist, that it's done in a very much in-your-face manner. And here we see the black and white picture of a visibly distressed Chrissy Teigen in the hospital. The first thought, of course, is let's capture a picture of this which I can utilise for a later occasion. That is the mindset of a narcissist. Anybody with emotional empathy doesn't want their picture taken at such a moment. They want to get on with grieving for the loss of the child that has been lost as a consequence of the miscarriage. It is often the behaviour of the narcissist to utilise personal tragedy as an instrument to triangulate other people with, for the purpose of assertion of control and the drawing of fuel. The article continues. She was revered for her bravery, with many baby loss organisations thanking her for breaking the stigma. But not all the responses were positive, and Chrissy Teigen yesterday admitted she was sensitive, adding, "One thing I haven't learned is how to block out the negativity." And that's as a consequence of the fact that negativity amounts to a threat to her control. that she is hypersensitive to such threats, and therefore, while she doesn't realise that that's what's happening, it manifests in her by saying, I don't know how to block out the negativity. And instead, what I'm now going to do, although I don't realise this consciously, is assert control over all those people who threaten my control by withdrawal. Namely, I'm coming off Twitter. The article continues with Tegan Teigen stating, I don't want to be this way, I just am. But I love you guys, and I cherish our time together. I truly do. Grandiosity. I also hate you. I encourage you to know and never forget that your words matter. No matter what you see, what that person portrays, or your intention. For years, I have taken so many small 2-follower count punches that at this point, I am honestly deeply bruised. Okay. So there you are, Chrissy Teigen, a reasonably good-looking lady that's married to John Legend, who's probably extremely wealthy, very well known. You probably live in a house with 27,000 toilets, huge mansion, probably 2 lovely children, friends, etc. And the fact is that because a nobody on the internet criticises you, i.e. these individual 2-follower count punches that you have, and that's enough to drive you off Twitter. That is the response of a narcissist to repeated threats to control. Anybody else would just laugh at those responses, ignore them, move on. But no, the fact that they threaten control results in the fact that in order to assert control, she does so in 2 ways. The first is by triangulating her followers with knowledge of these attacks against her as part of a pity play, and then the subsequent withdrawal. The article continues. Signing off, she said, Please know all I ever cared about was you. And a final post with a heart appeared before her account was deactivated. Tegan Teigen was also known for her witty remarks on Twitter, which would often see her trending. She was blocked by former US President Donald Trump as a result and demanded the presidential account refollow her when Joe Biden took office. Interestingly there, issuing a demand for somebody to refollow her after being blocked. Grandiosity, sense of entitlement, assertion of control. Entertainingly, the article ends with, her Instagram account is still active. Hypocrisy. If you are really that bothered about what's been happening, or at least of course you think you are, why not come off social media as a whole? No, this was an assertion of control and triangulation, and demonstrates the hypocrisy of coming off Twitter but remaining on Instagram. So already we have a number of indicators with regard to the behaviour, but there's yet more to come. And join me in part 2 as we examine more of Chrissy Teigen. You join me now for continued analysis of the behaviours of Chrissy Teigen appertaining to the establishment of her behaviours, demonstrating what she is. Now we move forward a couple of months and to an article that has appeared on page 6, dated 22nd of May 2021, written by Sarah Nathan and Ollie Coleman, headed The Rise and Fall of Undercover Bully, Chrissy Teigen. Viewers of The Voice will see a surprising new commercial this Tuesday. John Legend, one of the judges on the NBC competition show, will appear in a spot for vacation rental site VRBO, along with his wife, Chrissy Teigen, their 2 young children, and Teigen's mother, Vilaliuk Pepper Teigen. It should have been a clever piece of cross-promotion. Instead, Teigen is embroiled in a scandal that is casting a dark shadow over her career, not to mention the business deals, very important that, she shares with Legend, and even her mother, who has benefited from Teigen's fame with a newly released cookbook of her own. Teigen has been exposed for sending shockingly cruel messages to other women on social media, telling TV personality Courtney Stodden in 2011 to go to sleep forever, and mocking Lindsay Lohan, who has admitted to cutting herself in the past by tweeting that same year, Lindsay adds a few more slits to her wrists when she sees Emma Stone. In 2013, Teigen publicly called Teen Mom star Farrah Abraham a whore. Those are just 3 examples of this. Turning to the allegations appertaining to Courtney Stodden, an article also from page 6 of May 11th, 2021 reads as follows. Courtney Stodden claimed in a new interview that Chrissy Teigen used to cyberbully them and tell them to kill themselves. She wouldn't just publicly tweet about wanting me to take a dirt nap, but would privately DM me and tell me to kill myself. Stodden, who came out as non-binary in April and uses they-them pronouns, alleged in a profile published by the Daily Beast Monday things like, "I can't wait for you to die." Stodden, 26, began dredging up Teigen's 2011 tweets about them in March, putting the Cravings Cookbook author 35 on blast in a video that highlighted posts ranging from a simple "I hate you" to "at Courtney Stodden, my Friday fantasy, you, dirt nap," and "go to sleep forever." In her interview with the Daily Beast, Stodden recalled other instances of mistreatment they allegedly received from celebrities over the years. And there's reference made to other individuals. Joe Behar had a field day with me calling me a slut. Courtney Love told me I was a whore. And some of the worst treatment I got was from women, and we're not going to get anywhere if we keep holding each other back. And there's more information about Stodden's background. But, leaving aside the other allegations, as this is a series of videos about Chrissy Teigen, the point remains here. Tweeting about somebody, not once, not twice, but at least 3 times, is hoovering, the direct assertion of control. Doing so by tweeting and then privately direct messaging is hoovering, and they are malign hoovers. The comments themselves demonstrate a sense of entitlement to pass judgment on another individual in that way, a lack of accountability for the comments, and a lack of emotional empathy to say such things about another individual. To encourage an individual to kill themselves, to talk about it being a pleasure, in effect, for that person to die, demonstrates a wholesale absence of emotional empathy. And such comments, not once, not twice, but at least 3 times, demonstrate an absence of emotional empathy, a sense of entitlement, and amount to hoovers. So those were the comments that were made towards Courtney Stodden. And then, with regard to Lindsay Lohan, the US Sun, in an article from the 15th of May, by Ekin Karasin, states, Chrissy Teigen has been slammed by Lindsay Lohan's mother, Dina, after she shared a disturbing tweet about the actress. The model, 35, insinuated that the Mean Girls actress self-harms in a resurfaced post from January the 16th, 2011. Chrissy posted, Lindsay adds a few more slits to her wrists when she sees Emma Stone. Lindsay's mum, Dina, 58, defended her daughter after the tweet was uncovered this week, telling Chrissy to look into herself and own her actions. Good luck with that. As a single mother of 4, I have raised them to be kind, humble and non-judgmental, she told Fox News. That being said, I will not judge her words towards others, but I stand firm in one looking into oneself and continuing to learn and grow. Hashtag own you. And there is a screenshot of the relevant tweet that was issued on the 16th of January 2011 at 8:08 p.m. Again, that is a hoover, a malign one. It absents any emotional empathy and is done to assert control and to provoke. Then we have Farrah Abraham, who's called a whore. And page 6 also provides an article by Leah Bitsky, which states as follows. Chrissy Teigen is known as the Queen of Twitter, and like any sovereign, she has scuffled with many of her subjects along the way. The model, who has racked up millions of followers since joining the social media platform in 2009, has had public spats over the years with celebrity and public figures, including Donald Trump, knock-on-knock action there, Courtney Stodden and Tyra Banks. And therefore there is a list of the feuds. First of all, Donald Trump. One of Teigen's most notable feuds involved a former president of the United States. She famously went head-to-head with Donald Trump via Twitter during the 2016 election and throughout his time in the White House. That is until Trump blocked her on the app. His blocking is the third assertion of control, withdrawal. After 9 years of hating Donald J. Trump, telling him LOL no one liked you was the straw, Teigen wrote on Twitter in July 2017, alongside a screenshot of a message saying Trump had blocked her. While she laughed off the move, Teigen did admit that not being able to see Trump's Twitter gave her anxiety, pity play, because he often used the platform to communicate with the country and to call her the filthy-mouthed wife of John Legend. Trump there exhibited control in his normal bombastic style with a direct hoover. Knock-on-knock action. Her comments were designed by her unconscious narcissism to assert control over Trump, and he responded in kind by nullifying the threat to control, by smearing her and insulting her as the filthy-mouthed wife of John Legend, and ultimately then asserting control through withdrawal. The article refers to a spat with Alison Roman. Teigen's beef with Alison Roman has lingering effects to this day. The Cravings Cookbook author slammed the former New York Times writer after Roman criticised Teigen's career trajectory into the food world. Such criticism will have been challenge fuel given, but it threatens the innate need for control that the narcissist has. What Chrissy Teigen has done is so crazy to me, Roman told The New Consumer in May 2020. She had a successful cookbook, and then it was like, boom, line at Target. Boom, now she has an Instagram page that has over 1 million followers where it's just like people running a content farm for her. That horrifies me, and it's not something that I ever want to do. I don't aspire to that. That is a criticism of her which will threaten her control. Teigen then tweeted out Page 6 coverage of the ordeal and shared how hurt she was that Roman would bash two successful Asian women. Pity play, playing the race card by way of triangulation. The spat with Courtney Stodden is mentioned, and Farrah Abraham. Teigen had some nasty words to say about Teen Mom star Farrah Abraham in 2013. Farrah Abraham now thinks she's pregnant from her sex tape, she tweeted at the time, adding, "In other news, you're a whore and everyone hates you. Whoops, not other news, sorry." Accordingly, a hoover, as it's directed towards that individual, but also an indirect assertion of control because it's placed on Twitter for other people to comment upon it and respond to it. The article explains that critics immediately slammed Teigen for slut-shaming Farrah, who had made a sex tape with porn star James Dean, but the Sports Illustrated cover girl was quick to defend herself. "How is calling out a willing, lied-as leaked sex tape participant who hired Paps to photo her buying preg test this AM slut-shaming?" she tweeted. "Wow, amazed to see the outrage behind calling a stage-leaked sex tape chick from Teen Mum exactly what she is. Go on with your bad selves." Again, that may well be accurate, and is another instance of the narcissist utilising either the truth, the half-truth, or nowhere near the truth, so long as it allows the assertion of control. What she may have said there may well have been accurate, but somebody with emotional empathy would have thought better of doing it, and would have thought, but it probably wouldn't even cross their mind to have made comment, or even if it did, they'd have thought, well, who am I to judge? And they would leave it there. Of course, this individual has no emotional empathy. This is being demonstrated by these repeated behaviours, a pattern of habitual examples of an absence of emotional empathy, a sense of entitlement, a lack of boundary recognition, haughty behaviours, direct malign hoovering, the assertion of control, the drawing of fuel. The article explains that Teigen's words against Abraham resurfaced in 2021, with several Twitter users calling for the model to be cancelled. Then there is a spat with a child called Quevenzene, I think, Wallace. And the article explains Teigen doesn't pick on people her own size. The Bring the Funny judge didn't have the nicest words to say about the child actress Wallace in 2011. At the time, Wallace was nominated for an Oscar for her role in Beasts of the Southern Wild at just 9 years old, but Teigen wasn't completely sold on her talents. "Is it okay to call a small child cocky?" she wrote in a now-deleted tweet. "I'm forced to like Wallace because she's a child, right? Okay, fine." Again, absence of emotional empathy, sense of entitlement to comment. Why do we need to know the slops of your delinquent mind, Teigen spilling over? But of course you feel justified in doing it because your narcissism drives you to behave in that way in order to assert control over both Wallace and your followers, and you of course draw fuel from doing so. Then the next spat involves Tyra Banks. Page 6 reported in 2015 the two sparred behind the scenes of their talk show Fab Life. You never put two supermodels on the same show together, a TV insider said of the rift at the time, especially when one is more than 10 years younger than the other. The sources explained that the stars' personalities clashed. No, it was the need for control which clashed, as they had very different approaches to the series. They are so different. Tyra thinks about everything. She thinks about what to say, down to when to move her arm. Chrissy is from the new school, where she says whatever she wants. Sense of entitlement, lack of boundary recognition, instinctive automatic response. Then it moves on to a spat with Katie Cassidy. The article explains, Teigen doesn't just fight her own battles, she gets involved in other people's drama too. The former Deal or No Deal briefcase model infamously ragged on Katie Cassidy after the Arrow actress slammed sports journalist Erin Andrews. Responding to Andrews' post-game interview with NFL player Richard Sherman, Cassidy tweeted, "Seriously, why isn't she doing her job?" That's when Teigen decided to step in and defend Andrews' honour. Job, the word a person does regularly to make money. Alternative, what @Erin Andrews has. Second alternative, what you don't have. Bye, she wrote in a now-deleted tweet. She added, "Own it. I'll take you seriously when you don't simultaneously talk shit and preach the gospel." They tweeted back and forth at each other, with Cassidy writing, "I'm sorry you have negativity inside you. Can't be healthy. To be clear, not shit talking, but interesting you took it that way." And therefore, again, there's the need to assert control, a lack of boundary recognition by inserting her into a discussion or an interaction with other people, and feels that she's entitled to wade in there to say her piece. And therefore, we have a range of behaviours that have been exhibited over and over again, not just with one person, not with two, but with several, whereby Teigen has utilised social media as a means to assert control over other people, and to do so indirectly by, in effect, triangulating the recipient of her malign Hoover or malign comment with her followers. That is a pattern of repeated behaviour over a period of time. This is not a one-off that was occasioned by somebody having a shitty day at work. This was not a one-off by somebody slamming the tequila down and letting loose with some supposed pithy remarks and immediately regretting them with a hangover the following morning. This is an individual that operates with a sense of entitlement, a need to say what she wants to say without any emotional empathy for those who are affected by her comments. Many of the comments are not founded in the majority perspective of truth. Others are, but that in effect is largely irrelevant, because what matters is the ability to assert control, the ability to nullify threats to control, the ability to draw fuel, and that is what she has done repeatedly. Her tweeting history and the examples that page 6 has provided there demonstrate a huge sense of entitlement, an absence of emotional empathy, a lack of accountability for her behaviour, grandiosity, haughty behaviours, various forms of manipulation, an absence of boundary recognition, and significant aspects of the narcissistic dynamic, which all support demonstrating what she is. Now, the page 6 article of May 22nd continues with showing the fallout as a consequence of the behaviours that occurred. And in part 3, I'll be examining that, the impact upon Chrissy Teigen, and, moreover, what her recent responses have been to this, which only go to underline and emphasise what she actually is. Join me in part 3. So far, we have received evidence from different sources founded upon actual behaviours recorded in her own tweets that demonstrate that Chrissy Teigen has repeatedly operated with a sense of entitlement. She has failed to exhibit emotional empathy towards others. She has acted with a lack of accountability. She's engaged in deflection, blame shifting, insult, triangulation, belittlement, invalidation, the exhibition of fury. She has demonstrated that she operates with haughty behaviours, that she lacks boundary recognition and engages in black and white thinking, the need to assert control, and that exhibits a response to a perceived threat to her own control. The page 6 article continues by explaining what the fallout has been as a consequence of the revelation of these long-forgotten messages, and it led to her Cravings cookware line, which Teigen tirelessly promoted to her 13.6 million followers on Twitter and 34.8 million followers on Instagram, being pulled from Macy's. Such an action would cause substantial wounding to her, as it would threaten her control. Although it was previously reported that Target had also dropped Teigen, a rep for the store said, "We made the mutual decision in December to no longer carry the cookware line. Macy's has not confirmed if the line is shelved for good. I suspect that the Target rep was just being kind, and that Target also formed the view that they could not be involved with an individual that has engaged in such behaviour, particularly, of course, in the climate of recent years." The article continues. Teigen is holed up with her family at their Los Angeles home, and a source who knows her told the Post, "She's so raw and vulnerable. I don't know if she can come back to social media." Pity play through a lieutenant. The Teigen source admitted that the stores were forced to sever their relationships with the model after being bombarded with customer complaints on social media. As you can imagine, last week was wild, the sources said. When people started going after brands, whether warranted or not, it creates a mess for the brands to deal with. Well, it certainly does appear to be warranted, because this individual has been behaving in a manner towards other people that has caused them distress, that has caused them upset. This isn't the back and forth banter that has been engaged in, that often is seen on Twitter and can be often pithy and amusing. These are comments of blatant insults, labelling somebody a slut, and then saying, "But I'm right." Thereafter also the reports of suggesting that somebody killed themselves, and there's no joke in that, and it was said on numerous occasions towards Courtney Stodden. And also the comments towards Lindsay Lohan, who has clearly got a number of mental health issues and has been encouraged, or rather her self-harming has been ridiculed in a manner of saying that every time she sees Emma Stone succeeding, because there's evidently a similarity between Miss Stone and Miss Lohan in terms of careers and possibly even looks, that this causes then Lindsay Lohan to self-harm. The comments speak for themselves, and they were clearly made because the screenshots exist of the tweets. This is not something that's been taken out of context. This is not something that's been fabricated. She wrote those things and tweeted them. The article continues. Page 6 reported that Bloomingdale's was hours away from signing a contract with Teigen to host a promotional event for the store, but pulled the plug on Monday, wounding. Although a source with knowledge of the VRBO partnership told the Post there were no issues, and the deal is moving forward as planned, branding expert Mark Bukowski isn't so sure Teigen will be forgiven by her fans or the people who hired her. "No one tolerates the idea of a bully. Within the business values of many of these brands, it causes problems," Bukowski said. "It's all about authenticity. If you're found out to not be what you claim to be, that always leads to an Icarus moment, and everything comes crashing down. One day you're hot, and the next day you're cancelled due to stupidity, arrogance, or ego. America is the worst place to be shamed, and the first people to jump ships are agents who arrange deals if they don't see money in you. Well, of course, that is why they exist. And it's not a case of being cancelled due to stupidity, arrogance, or ego, although it may well look like that. She's being cancelled as a consequence of her narcissism coming to the fore, and is another perfect example of the unaware narcissist in action. The narcissism feels the need to assert control in the moment, causing her to tweet what she tweeted. It has no regard for the collateral consequence of how that might be looked at years later or days later. It has no concern for the collateral consequences, how that might affect other people. It has no concern for the collateral consequence as to how that might impact upon Chrissy Teigen's earning power or relationships with the various brands that she's involved in. The narcissism is solely focused on the assertion of that control in that moment. And that is the issue, that it has compelled her to assert control through these malign hoovers, and now the collateral consequences being experienced with not only people expressing their disapproval and dislike of her conduct, complaining about her to the brands, and the brands dropping her. The article continues. Stodden, who first came into the public eye in 2011 as a 16-year-old, wed to 51-year-old actor Doug Hutchinson, brought the scandal to light on May the 10th in an interview with the Daily Beast. She wouldn't just publicly tweet about wanting me to take a dirt nap, but would privately DM me and tell me to kill myself, said Stodden. Things like, I can't wait for you to die. In March, Stodden, now 26, also posted a video to Instagram in which 2011 tweets from Teigen were revealed that ranged from I hate you to my Friday fantasy, you dirt nap. And while Tegan Teigen is known for her sparky humour, it didn't jibe with the image on which she has built her brand, hypocrisy, as a loving mum and wife, and a champion of women. The 35-year-old model has made it her deal to be open and honest about everything. Assertion of control, lack of boundary recognition, from getting sober to the tragic stillbirth of her baby son Jack at 20 weeks into her pregnancy, even publishing a series of raw photos from her hospital room in September 2020. It's all helped her build a huge social media following, and it turns out some of those followers are just as vicious as she has been. As the Post previously reported, retired military nurse and self-confessed social media troll Kerry Ryan found herself in a Twitter war with Tegan Teigen in 2019 after commenting, "You are way overrated to the star." Challenge fuel. And whilst that wasn't so nice in itself, Ryan was still shocked to be bombarded with messages from Tegan Teigen's followers saying they wish she was dead. When she read about what Tegan Teigen had done to Stodden, Ryan said, "What has to happen to someone to get them to a place where they tell a 16-year-old to kill themselves? I don't know if mean is just her baseline or if she just went through some tough stuff that got her to that point." No, Carrie Ryan. She's a narcissist, and therefore she has no emotional empathy, she needs to assert control, and does so without any due regard for how that would impact upon somebody else, driven by her own narcissism. Her narcissism, of course, tells her that she's entitled to write these things, that these people deserve to be treated this way, that they have perhaps lashed out at her and they need to be put down. Meanwhile, the article continues, former US Weekly reporter John Varek, who was let go from the publication after an online spat with Tegan Teigen, yet another, said celebrities like Tegan Teigen don't realise the power of their words on social media. She and plenty of others don't think about the person on the other end. Of course not. She's a narcissist, why would she? They think about the likes or comments and don't realise there are real people that their words affect. Again, that's accurate because the unconscious response is to draw fuel from the likes or comments. They get mass approval and have zero regard for the damage being done. Teigen attacked him after a red carpet interview ended up with the headline, "Chrissy Teigen, we're hiring a night nurse for baby." Challenge fuel. When she accused him of trying to make her look like a poor uncaring mother and get people talking, Varek told her he didn't write the headlines and forwarded her a screenshot of the quotes he had sent to a US Weekly editor. He was soon given his marching orders. "I was on a freelance salary, getting paid per event, trying to make rent," Varek said. She carried on the next day and probably didn't remember any of it. And you're probably right about that, Mr. Varek, because of her compartmentalisation, that once control had been asserted, she moves on to the next thing. After Snowden's revelation, Tegan Teigen tweeted, "Not a lot of people are lucky enough to be held accountable for all that past bullshit in front of the entire world. I'm mortified and sad at who I used to be. Pity play? False contrition. I was an insecure, attention-seeking troll. I'm so sorry, Courtney." False contrition. Stodden accepted the apology and forgave Tegan Teigen on Instagram, but added, "I have never heard from her or her camp in private. In fact, she blocked me on Twitter." And again, that explanation speaks volumes. Tegan Teigen, having mauled a young lady, encouraging her to kill herself, doesn't have the emotional empathy, and of course her narcissism won't allow this to be done, to contact that individual in private to express any remorse. Why? Because she has none. And the expression of remorse in private really wouldn't achieve anything. Instead, the narcissism directs Tegan Teigen to assert control en masse by making it a public supposed apology, which will, 1, indirectly assert control over Stodden, but more importantly, from her perspective as a narcissist, but again occurring in her unconscious, enables her to assert control over everybody else who happens to be noticing, that makes it look like that she's contrite, that she was troubled, that she has learned from what has gone on in the past, that she has somehow improved herself. Horseshit. She has not. This is quite simply her narcissism responding in order to assert control, and in order to not only assert control over Stodden and followers and viewers and commentators, but also, of course, to save those residual benefits, because she is tanking, she is sinking. The former swimwear model is sinking. And as Stodden calls it correctly. She states, "All of me wants to believe this is a sincere apology," Stodden posted, "but it feels like a public attempt to save her partnerships with Target and other brands who are realising her wokeness is a broken record." Stodden is correct. This is just facade management. It is an attempt to look like she cares and is sorry, but she is not. Words come easy to the narcissist. The actions have not followed. And it is about asserting control over Stodden, asserting control over the followers, and importantly asserting control over Target and the other brands to make it look like she is contrite in order to preserve control over them, nullify the threat to control that they've posed by pulling the plug on her lines, and of course to preserve the residual benefits of that delicious moolah, that filthy lucre, that cash money. And isn't it interesting, once again, that an individual that throws around the cult of woke has been exposed as another hypocritical fraud, that preaches wokeness on the one hand, yet their own actions belie that. What is that? Of course, it is the hypocrisy of the narcissist. The public apology that has been issued is purely for the purposes of the assertion of control, facade management, and to prevent the ongoing damage that has been experienced. BBC News reports further on this by stating, Chrissy Teigen has broken a month-long social media silence to apologise for bullying several people on Twitter. In a blog post, the US model reflected on the crushing weight of regret for the things I've said in the past. False contrition. Teigen published a series of tweets in May apologising to TV personality Courtney Stodden, who accused her of online bullying. Stodden accepted the apology, but said it could just be an attempt to limit damage to Teigen's reputation. In her latest blog post, Teigen said she was privately reaching out to people she'd insulted in the past, though she did not say who. And of course, as per what Stodden has written, that hasn't happened, so that may well be a lie. There is simply no excuse for my past horrible tweets, wrote Teigen. Well then, why did you do it? Who is married to singer John Legend. I was a troll, full stop, and I am so sorry. No, you're not. You believe that you are because your narcissism makes you believe that you're sorry, but you're not. It's false contrition. I took to Twitter to try to gain attention. You did, it was fuel, and show off what I at the time believed was a crude, clever, harmless quip. Anybody reviewing those tweets can see that they were neither clever, nor harmless, nor quips. They were nasty messages, and thus to try and describe them as crude, clever, harmless quips basically unravels the apology. And what is that? It's deflection. It's blame shifting. She continues, I thought it made me cool and relatable if I poked fun at celebrities. And of course, her narcissism, because of the level that it has evolved to, doesn't allow her to realise that that's not poking fun. It doesn't allow her to realise that what she was actually doing wasn't poking fun at all, encouraging somebody to kill themselves. Ho-ho! That's a good laugh, isn't it? Telling somebody, every time you see Emma Stone, you cut yourself further. Oh, chortle! What a great gag! No. And what's happening here is that through her supposed apology, she's just revealing more of her true colours and is digging herself deeper. Her supposed apology continues. In reality, I was insecure, immature, and in a world where I thought I needed to impress strangers to be accepted. More horseshit. Teigen currently has 13.5 million Twitter followers and 35 million on Instagram, where she also shared a link to her blog post. She said she was not seeking sympathy. Yes, she is. And that she was no longer the person who wrote those horrible things. Yes, you are. But your narcissism doesn't allow you to see it. After getting married, having kids, and attending therapy. We are all more than our worst moments. Word salad. Teigen wrote, I won't ask for your forgiveness, only your patience and tolerance. Martyrdom. In 2011, Teigen, who was aged 25 at the time, she's no child, she's 25 years old, sent Twitter messages to then 16-year-old Stodden, still a child, urging them to take their own life. Stodden, who has come out as non-binary, the BBC reports, recently told the Daily Beast that other celebrities had commented on the relationship that she had with Hutchinson. There are a lot of celebrities acting like playground bullies, and indeed Teigen was foremost of them. It's very clear from this sustained course of conduct over a period of time against not just one person, but a multiplicity of individuals, that we have seen the range of behaviours that demonstrate the various indicators that determine what Chrissy Teigen is. We have seen that she engages with a sense of entitlement, feeling that she is entitled to pass judgment on people in the most nasty of ways, that she exhibits a complete lack of emotional empathy because she's manipulative, that she has written nasty and unpleasant comments of particularly savage nature to people who are in a position of vulnerability. She lacks accountability for her behaviour. She's told lies. She blame shifts. She does not accept that she's done anything wrong. She retracts from her behaviour, distancing herself from it and blaming it on other factors. She exhibits grandiosity. She utilises flowery language, exaggeration. She boasts. She exhibits haughty behaviours. She's rude, condescending, dismissive, and arrogant. She's snippy and operates with a closed mind. She demonstrates a range of manipulations: flattery, the telling of lies, triangulation with object, triangulation with person, absent silent treatment, backhanded compliment, pity play, smearing, false compassion, false contrition, invalidation, belittlement, withdrawal, denial, provocation, projection, blame shifting, word salad, use of threat, insult, revision of history, feigned misunderstanding, intimidation, bullying, false accusations, vagueness, finding fault, use of the vulnerability against the victim. She has poor boundary recognition. She repeatedly engages in the behaviour. She sees nothing wrong with wading into discussions between other people that don't involve her at all. She shows significant aspects of the narcissistic dynamic, whereby she engages in facade management. She sees others as an extension of herself. She engages in character trait acquisition, black and white thinking, the exhibition of the need to assert control, the exhibition of a response to a perceived threat to that control, hypocrisy, the exhibition of envy, objectification, compartmentalization, hoovering. There are all of the indicators that support to finding that Chrissy Teigen behaves as a narcissist. This has been shown again and again and again through a systematic and habitual pattern of behaviour. And this has been demonstrated yet again where her supposed apology, which is merely a pity play and false contrition, is all about the assertion of control, the nullification of a threat to control, and the desire to draw fuel and preserve the residual benefits. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening. The first three parts I provided you with considerable evidence which demonstrates the status of Chrissy Teigen and enabled you to understand that the individual concerned is a narcissist, supported by a variety of behaviours that cover all of the various indicators that demonstrate what she is. This has been based upon the evidential analysis of her own behaviour, the things that she's said and the things that she's done. And therefore, having established that what she is, this now enables us to look at everything that she does, everything that she says, through that narcissistic lens, to enable you to, first of all, understand precisely what's going on with regard to this individual, and secondly, to extend your understanding of narcissism in action. In this part, we go to an article by people.com. We analyse what we find there. The article headlines: Chrissy Teigen says she hopes her kids recognise my evolution as she apologises for past tweets. Chrissy Teigen is opening up about what she wants her kids to take away from her public apology over her past insensitive tweets. Deflection, triangulation with her children. Her kids didn't tweet telling a 16-year-old girl to basically go and kill yourself. Her children weren't involved in telling Lindsay Lohan, you'll cut yourself more each and every time Emma Stone appears. Her children didn't engage in the assertion of control through bullying behaviour towards these particular individuals. However, Given that Chrissy Teigen has a sense of entitlement, no boundary recognition, no emotional empathy for her children, and she sees them as an extension of herself, she utilises then for the further assertion of control by making it look like that she's a kind and considerate mother by saying, I want my children to take things away from my public apology. Her children are young. If I recall correctly, they're both under 10 years of age. There we are. They're 3 and 5 years old. They may not even realise what Twitter is, or what social media necessarily is, and they shouldn't be burdened, of course, with adult issues by this individual. But of course, that's not going to stop her. Her narcissism drives her to assert control over other people by ensuring that she deflects from her own poor behaviour, absence of accountability, and then triangulates with her children as part of a degree of facade management to enable her to say, look, I'm going to talk about my children because I want them to learn from this. See, I am a good person because I've recognised that I have done wrong, and I want to ensure that my children have a takeaway from all of this. You shouldn't be involving your children, but your absence of boundary recognition means you can't see that, and your absence of emotional empathy also means that you're unable to see that. So you end up dragging them in. The article continues. On Monday, the Cravings author penned a blog post, and I'll be returning to said blog post because that's very much worth a breakdown, in which she further breaks her silence after apologising last month for previous bullying Courtney Stodden on social media. In the essay, I think that's stretching it rather, Teigen explains that there is simply no excuse for my past horrible tweets. Indeed, there isn't, but guess what? The hypocrite that you are, Teigen, you're going to offer lots of excuses anyway. And that I was a troll, full stop, and I am so sorry. Except you're not, because as I explained in earlier parts of this is false contrition, which is designed to assert control and to seek to preserve the residual benefits by preventing individuals from running away from you with lucrative deals, which are part of the residual benefits. The truth is, I'm no longer the person who wrote those horrible things. Yes, you are. You were a narcissist when you wrote them, and you still are. I grew up. No, you didn't, but your narcissism cons you into believing that you have. Got therapy. That hasn't helped. It doesn't help narcissists. Got married. Extension of self. Facade management. Residual benefits. Had kids. Extension of self. Facade management. Residual benefits. Assertion of control. Got more therapy. Always important to get more therapy. I often think to myself when I go down to the supermarket, I'll have some therapy. Or maybe I'll purchase a little more therapy. One can always have a little more therapy in one's life, can't one? Experience loss and pain. Got more therapy. Bloody hell, that therapist must be absolutely rolling in it, if of course they exist. And experience more life. And now we go to capital letters, because if you write something in capital letters, that, dear listeners, means you mean it. It's really sincere when you put it in capitals. And got more therapy. She writes, life has made me more empathetic. No, your narcissism has caused you to believe that you're more empathetic as part of an assertion of control through facade management. Teigen goes on to share what she wants her 2 kids, Miles, 3, and Luna, 5, whom she shares with husband John Legend, to learn from her public apology. What those children should be learning is you're being used by your narcissist mother, and that will go on repeatedly because she doesn't see you as 2 individuals in your own right. She sees you as 2 extensions of herself, which are there to cater to her prime aims. Of course, she doesn't consciously see this. This occurs in her unconscious. John tells me almost every day how much our daughter Luna reminds him of me. Grandiosity, self-absorption. Every day, I try to make sure she's all the best parts of me. Well, that's saddling yourself with an impossible task, not that you'd notice. All the things I aspire to be, all the time, but fail at sometimes. Pity play, writes Teigen. And we preach kindness to her. Self-entitlement, monologue, and Miles every chance we get. Lucky, lucky children. Will they eventually realise there is some hypocrisy there? I certainly do, but I hope they recognise my evolution. She doesn't recognise the hypocrisy. The word just trots out of her mouth, but immediately to be replaced by talking about the fact that I have evolved. Namely, I'm not really talking about my hypocrisy because I don't genuinely recognise it. Instead, it's all about me and my evolution. That's what matters more. My goal is to be so good that my kids will think this was all a fairy tale. Magical thinking, grandiosity. The mum of two continues. Not the fake good, the good that has the best intentions, the good who wakes up wanting to make her friends, family, her team, and fans as happy as possible. Okay, so this is how you wake up every day, is it, Chrissy Teigen? I want to make my friends, my family, my team, and my fans as happy as possible. So what I'll do is I'll spend my time going on social media encouraging a 16-year-old girl to kill herself. I'll get into repeated Twitter spats with people, calling them names and engaging in not just unpleasant, but downright despicable behaviour, because that's all about making people happy, isn't it? I'm making them happy by saying, you keep cutting yourself every time Emma Stone appears. Tick, yes, I've made Lindsay Lohan happy. And I've made you, Stodden, happy by encouraging you to kill yourself. And you, 8-year-old girl, I made you happy by insulting you also. There we are. I'm spreading all of the happiness. More hypocrisy. The article continues with Teigen's self-indulgent hogwash. The good who will still fuck up in front of the world, but rarely. Well, you do it repeatedly, but you don't care because it's all part of your narcissism and the assertion of control, and never not growing only more good from it. If you have chuck buckets to hand, use them now. Teigen adds, I'm going to keep working to be the best version of myself. Typical narcissistic twaddle. The best version of myself. You are who you are. That phrase has been dreamt up by a narcissist as part of grandiosity and magical thinking, and then unfortunately it enters into the mainstream as people think, ooh, that sounds like a good endeavour, that sounds like a sensible thing to say, a little bit like that moronic phrase, living your best life. I'm going to keep working to be the best version of myself for everyone. Everyone deserves better, even my detractors, false compassion. And better is what you can expect from me, promised change. The world needs more kindness and love, grandiosity, and I want to contribute to it, grandiosity. I've been on a path of self-improvement for the past decade. Ha ha ha! Really? You don't know self-improvement, Chrissy Teigen. If it came up and inserted itself into you rectally, wriggled round inside, and popped out of your mouth, slapping those rather large cheeks of yours back and forth. And that path is going to continue. Promise change. Teigen told People in April how Luna is exactly like Mum. Extension of self, ownership, entitlement, lack of boundary recognition. She is a bit of a perfectionist, which I didn't know I was until the past few years. Grandiosity, said Teigen at the time. I'm trying to tell her that that's not everything. It's funny, because when I talk to her, I'm actually talking to myself too. Mirroring, extension of self. Not everything has to be perfect, and there is joy and beauty in imperfections. And don't be so hard on yourself. And that's me talking to myself when I tell her that stuff. Again, her narcissism causes her to be so up herself, she doesn't realise how ridiculous and conceited and self-absorbed all of that sounds. She thinks that she's being meaningful, that she's being open and honest. She's not. She's asserting control through such an assumption, and that assertion is being made to assert control over the listener, to indirectly control those who read and have to tolerate this utter drivel, and, of course, to assert control over a daughter. I'm an open free spirit, and I love kids to be kids. Teigen added of her parenting outlook. For us, kindness is such a big thing. Really, that should be obvious. You shouldn't need to speak about it, but the fact that you do demonstrates that you don't actually offer it, Because typically, as per the narcissist, what you're doing is you talk a good game, but you don't do the good game. When you meet our kids, they're very warm and friendly. I'm sure they're lovely children. Not as a consequence of your involvement, Teigen. You instill those things in them, grandiosity, extension of self, but for the most part, let them be creative and wondrous and spirited and curious beings. Grandiosity. This is an individual who has written savage, unpleasant, despicable tweets, bullying people online, not once, but over and over again. And rather than apologise and correct her behaviour and shut up about it, as a typical narcissist, all she can do is wank on about how wonderful a mother she is, how wonderful her kids are, and that she wants them to learn from her mistake. She drags her children, who are just 3 and 5 years old, into her clusterfuck of a behaviour without any due consideration for how that impacts upon them, because she has no boundary recognition and no emotional empathy. She utilises them as the appliances that she unconsciously sees them as a method of deflection and triangulation. And it just goes to underline, once more, her credentials as a narcissist. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening. In part 5, we are going to take a little journey over to Chrissy Teigen's blog and to have a look at her mea culpa moment, her confession, her moment of absolution and apparent apology, and we're going to dissect it for what it really is. You will need 2 things for the purposes of listening to that analysis. On your left-hand side, a chuck bucket, because you may well want to vomit at the sheer odious nature of her self-absorption, and also a handkerchief to dry your eyes, because you are about to be further entertained. Join me in part 5. In earlier parts of this series, I have set out for you the evidential basis for the finding that Chrissy Teigen is a narcissist. And now you are able to view all of her behaviours, her actions, the things that she says, the things that she doesn't do, through the lens of narcissism, to enable you to understand precisely why she does as she does, guided and aided by your excellent narrator, providing you with unrivalled analysis of such an individual, as I have done throughout the various constituent parts of the very series. One of the things that Chrissy Teigen has done is go to her blog for the purpose of issuing some kind of mea culpa. This is well worth reviewing for the purposes of dissecting what is really going on. What is really meant by these words? Remember, she is an unaware narcissist, so her narcissism makes her feel and think in a particular way, so that she honestly believes that what she is saying is true, is genuine, because if her narcissism didn't do that, it wouldn't be effective. The narcissism makes her believe that she is contrite, that she believes that she's being humble and apologetic. Of course, her narcissism isn't particularly well evolved, and it's still rather rough around the edges. Not that she would notice, but of course an expert such as I, and growing experts such as you, dear listeners, will be able to recognise where the narcissism hasn't quite got it right, and that she engages in behaviour, comment, which just goes to demonstrate what she's doing. Often people would talk about that perhaps as failing to read the room, or being tone deaf, or being obtuse or obnoxious. It's the narcissism that's on display. But now, as a consequence of understanding what she is, we can peel back what has been written, look underneath the bonnet, and I can explain it all for you. So strap yourself in, because it's a very interesting analysis of what is really being meant by what she's writing. Remember, her unconscious narcissism is driving these behaviours with regard to the pursuit of the prime aims, fuel, control, character traits, and residual benefits. And I'm going to read what she has written and then explain what's really going on with regard to sections of what has been written by Chrissy Teigen. Hi all, it has been a very humbling few weeks. Pity play for the purposes of assertion of control. I'm not humble, I'm incapable of it. I know I've been quiet, and Lord knows you don't want to hear about me. False humility, and then hypocrisy, because although I'm saying that you don't want to hear about me, what am I next going to do? I'm going to write all about me. Blatant hypocrisy from the off. But I want you to know, sense of entitlement, I've been sitting in a hole of deserved global punishment, pity play. The ultimate, grandiosity, sit here and think about what you've done. Not a day, not a single moment has passed where I haven't felt the crushing weight of regret for the things I've said in the past. Grandiosity, pity play, she doesn't experience regret, and I'm pretty certain, in fact, I am certain, that there will have been repeated moments where she hasn't contemplated anything that she's said in the past. Instead, it will have come up occasionally as a consequence of her being reminded of those behaviours, either by people talking about it in her inner circle, or if she happens to peruse various news articles or goes on the internet. But it's very simple. She hasn't felt the crushing weight of regret at all. She doesn't experience regret. She merely thinks she does, because the narcissism makes her believe this. As you know, a bunch of my old awful exaggeration tweets resurfaced. I'm truly ashamed of them. Lie. As I look at them and understand the hurt they caused, I have to stop and wonder, how could I have done that? She doesn't think that at all. She's merely motivated by her narcissism to write that because it gives the appearance of genuine reflection. That is absent. She's a narcissist. I've apologised publicly to one person, facade management, but there are others, and more than just a few, who I need to say I'm sorry to. I'm in the process of privately reaching out to the people I insulted, so why are you telling us that? If it's private, get on with it and do it. She may well not do that at all, and therefore it's a lie, or she is doing that as part of an assertion of control over those individuals. But the fact that she feels compelled to tell everybody else that she's doing this, rather than just getting on and doing it, is a nod to facade management and the need to assert control over the reader. It's like my own version of that show, My Name is Earl! ! Grandiosity, I'm likening my situations to a fictionalised programme that was very popular, and also I've just completely undermined any apparent sincerity that I was exhibiting by saying, hey look, I'm doing something that's like a show. And that shows the crassness of the way that her narcissism operates. She thinks it's appropriate to throw a joke in there, in the same way that she thought it was appropriate to tell a 16-year-old girl that she should kill herself. I understand that they may not want to speak to me. No, you don't. You've been told that's the case, and a degree of cognitive empathy suggests that it may be the case. However, you're still going to contact them anyway because of your rampant sense of entitlement, lack of boundary recognition, need to assert control, and the need to manage the facade that operates to a degree with you. I don't think I'd like to speak to me, false humility. The real truth in all of this is how much I actually cannot take confrontation. Lie, pitying. In a way, there's an accuracy. She can't take confrontation because, of course, it's a threat to control, but she doesn't mean it in that sense because she's unaware of it. What she's actually saying is, I'm not really a horrible person. I don't really like confrontation, so please don't judge me. But if they do, I'm here, and I will listen to what they have to say while apologising through sobs. Again, making it all about her. I'll listen to you, but actually, it's about me because I'm the one that's apologising and I'm crying, so pity play, feel sorry for me. If you want to use your chuck bucket, please go ahead now. There'll be a brief pause to enable you to do so and regain your composure. There is simply no excuse for my past horrible tweets, but I'll make one anyway. My targets didn't deserve them, so why did I do it in the first place? Well, of course, because of your sense of entitlement, your need to assert control, your lack of boundary recognition, and your absence of emotional empathy, Chrissy Teigen. No one does, but I still went ahead and did it because I'm a hypocrite. Many of them needed empathy, kindness, understanding and support, not my meanness masquerading as a kind of casual, edgy humour, but you still went ahead and did it anyway, and you didn't just do it once, you did it repeatedly. I was a troll, full stop. No, you're a narcissist. And I'm so sorry. False contrition. I want to go a little further here, thinking of those I've hurt and friends I've disappointed. not because I genuinely have any emotional empathy for those individuals, but it's purely because my control over them is being threatened, and therefore I must trot out these mealy-mouthed episodes of false contrition. When I first started using social media, I had so much fun with it. Of course you did. You asserted control over people, and you were drawing fuel from them. It was all good gravy. I made jokes, that's a matter of opinion, random observations. Think of all the engineers working day and night to develop this amazing new platform and technology, connecting people all over the world to learn, create, and find kindred spirits. And I used it to snark at some celebrities. I suspect that somebody else has inserted that as something for her to write. Grandiosity, talking about the size of the platform. In reality, I was insecure, immature, and in a world where I thought I needed to impress strangers to be accepted. No, you didn't think that at the time at all. You just did as you did because you thought that it was funny, you thought that it was great, because your narcissism made you see it that way, so that you asserted control over these people through malign hoovers. Now, when your narcissism recognises that your control over many, many people is being threatened, you adopt this apparent self-reflection, which is not genuine. If there was a pop culture pylon, I took to Twitter to try to gain attention and show off what I at the time believed was a crude, clever, harmless quip. The fact that you thought telling a 16-year-old girl to kill herself was harmless demonstrates that you have no emotional empathy. I thought it made me look cool and relatable if I poked fun at celebrities. No, you didn't. You're saying that now with the benefit of hindsight, caused by your narcissism to say that. Again, at the time, you did it unconsciously to assert control and draw fuel. Consciously you did it because you honestly believed that those individuals deserved it, and you thought it was entertaining to be nasty to these individuals. Now, confronted with some of the things that I said, I cringe to my core. No, you don't. Your narcissism makes you think that you cringe to your core. It makes you think that you look at it that way in order to cause you to say these things to make it look like you're contrite. False contrition. Get your chuck buckets ready again, listeners. I'll honestly get sharp stabbing pains in my body. Bullshit. Pity play. Randomly remembering my asshole past. No, you don't. And I deserve it. False. Martyrdom. Words have consequences, and there are real people behind the Twitter handles I went after. Absolutely. That's why you did it. Because real people are there to be controlled. Real people give you fuel. I wasn't just attacking some random avatar, but hurting young women. Some who were still girls, who had feelings. How could I not stop and think of that? Very easily. Your narcissism didn't allow you to do so. Why did I think there was some invisible psycho-celebrity formula, word salad, that prevents anyone with more followers from experiencing pain? How did I not realise my words were cruel? Because you're a narcissist. What gave me the right to say these things? Your sense of entitlement. I wasn't mean in my everyday life. Oh, so that's all right then. Except hypocrisy. You were mean in your everyday life, because it wasn't somebody else sending those messages, Chrissy Teigen. It was you. And that was your everyday life, because you were prolific on Twitter. You were repeatedly sending those messages to people. More than once, someone would come up to me and say, "You're so much nicer in person." Oh, good, let's make it all about you and immediately forget about this so-called apology. Why was that not a huge red flag? But I took it in and tossed it aside. I did book signings, where girls would call me a badass bitch. And I'd stretch my arm towards them as they walked away, looking at my friends and saying, "I promise I'm not." Of course you did. Those individuals were accurately assessing your unpleasant character, Chrissy Teigen, and your narcissism rejected that because it can't allow you to see that that's the case, because it would threaten your control, and therefore it caused you to hypocritically state, "I promise I'm not," to your friends, because your narcissism was concerned that the comment about you being called a badass bitch would threaten your control over your friends, so therefore it caused you to issue a false promise. At the time, I just didn't get it. No, because you didn't need to, because your narcissism wouldn't allow it. Believe me, I get it now. Still, you actually don't, and the content of this so-called apology already demonstrates this. However, your narcissism is now apparently giving you some insight, but it's not. All it's doing is causing you to create the appearance of an apology, the appearance of contrition, the appearance of reflection and insight for the purposes of assertion of control. In part 6, I will continue with the breakdown and analysis of this. I'm giving you a break also because, of course, you need to wipe away the vomit as a consequence of listening to this self-indulgent horseshit. Join me in part 6 for further analysis. Tudor. I'm working my way through the supposed mea culpa that appears on Chrissy Teigen's blog. I continue to analyse what's really going on with regard to the spoon-faced narcissist, explaining what's really being meant in what she's writing to enable you to understand it better and to extend your knowledge of narcissism. With your chuck bucket and handkerchief to the ready, let's dive straight back in. Teigen writes, I'm telling you this for context, not seeking or deserving any sympathy. Actually, it's a huge pity play, and I'm being a hypocrite again. There's no justification for my behaviour. At the time, it was justified because my narcissism did. Now, I'm suggesting that there is no justification for it after the event, when it's very easy to write these things, but actually, the damage has already been done, again and again and again. I'm not a victim here, although actually my narcissism considers that I am. Otherwise, why would I be repeatedly doling out these pity plays? The subjects of your sympathy and mine should be those I put down. False compassion. The truth is, I'm no longer the person who wrote those horrible things. Blame shifting, deflection. Oh yes, you are. I grew up. No, you didn't. Got therapy. Maybe. Got married. Evidently. Had kids. Evidently. You plaster them all over social media because they're little extensions of who you are. Got more therapy. Experienced loss and pain. Pity play. Got more therapy. And experienced more life. Capitals now. And got more therapy. Life has made me more empathetic. No, it hasn't. You haven't an ounce of emotional empathy in your body. Your narcissism causes you to believe falsely that you have become more empathetic because it's causing you to write those words because those are the necessary ones to write in order to assert control, to try and nullify the threats to control being posed by your exposure for your awful, awful behaviour to other individuals. The fact remains that if you were empathetic, you wouldn't have written what you've written. And you, as a narcissist, can't gain any empathy. It can't be injected into you, but your narcissism can con you into believing that you have gained it. I'm more understanding of what motivates trolling, the instant gratification that you get from lashing out and clapping back, throwing rocks at someone you think is invincible because they're famous. No, it's nothing to do with that, but your narcissism, again because you're unaware, misleads you into believing that's the case. Also, I know how it feels to be on the receiving end of incredible vitriol. Pity play. Diminution of the experience of the victims. Believe me, the irony of this is not lost on me. It entirely is. You repeatedly demonstrate that through what you've written, Chrissy Teigen. John tells me almost every day how much our daughter Luna reminds him of me. Relevance? It isn't, but it's all about the extension of self and grandiosity. Every day, I try to make sure she's all the best parts of me. Grandiosity, extension of self. All the things I aspire to be all the time, but fail at sometimes. Pity play. And we preach kindness to her and Miles every chance we get. Grandiosity, sense of entitlement. Will they eventually realise there is some hypocrisy there? I certainly do. No, you don't. But I hope they recognise my evolution. Why should they? They're children ages 3 and 5. And again, that shows the disconnect between understanding an individual because you have no emotional empathy. My goal is to be so good, all about self, self-absorbed grandiosity, that my kids will think this was all a fairy tale. Word salad, grandiosity, magical thinking. Not the fake good. The good that has the best intentions. The good who wakes up wanting to make her friends, family, her team and fans as happy as possible. I've already explained in part 4 my views about all of that. The good who will still fuck up in front of the world, but rarely and never not growing any more good from it. I'm going to keep working to be the best version of myself for everyone. Oh, hallelujah, how the world rejoices. Thank goodness you've done that, Chrissy Teigen. Our lives would be a howling wilderness without you doing this for all of us. Grandiosity, promise change. Everyone deserves better, even my detractors. Oh, how magnanimous of you, sitting there in your ivory tower, telling even your detractors. Why are you mentioning your detractors? Because it's another pity play. You're meant to be apologising, not talking about how you feel. The entirety of this vomit fest shows a complete inability to understand anything that those individuals have experienced as a consequence of her behaviour, and that demonstrates the low level of the narcissism at which she operates. And better is what you can expect from me, promise change. The world needs more kindness and love, and I want to contribute to it. Grandiosity. I've been on a path of self-improvement for the past decade, delusion, hypocrisy, and that path is going to continue. Promise change. I truly love that social media has connected me to so many of you. Absolutely, but not for the reasons that you believe. You love it because it enables you to assert control and draw fuel and acquire residual benefits. We've shared so much. Basically, I've told you how it is and you've all had to lap it up because I'm the controller, you're the control. I've learned so much, I've grown so much, horseshit, and I love what you have meant to me. Yes, you're all wonderful appliances that largely do what I want. I have so much love to give if you are open and willing to accept it. So, if you don't, it's your fault, blame shifting. And if not, that's okay too. Oh, thank you, Your Royal Highness, for allowing it to be okay. Since when were you appointed judge and arbiter of all that's right and wrong? That's something I work on, being more okay with every day. I know I let you down. No, you didn't. Your narcissism just tells you that. But I hope I can make you proud. It's been a heavy few weeks, so I'm going to take some more time to focus on things that are most important, being with my family and taking care of myself. Make it all about you, you self-absorbed idiot. Why don't you spend a bit of time engaging in doing something meaningful for the victims, going and seeing them, allowing them to express how they feel while you sit in silence and listen? Of course, it's not going to get anywhere with you because your narcissism will prevent it, but at least it would appear that you're doing something more meaningful than this, which is just talking about yourself all the way through. We are all more than our worst moments. Claptrap, soundbite, horseshite. I won't ask for your forgiveness, except I am, only your patience and tolerance. I ask that you allow me, as I promised to allow you. Oh, how good of you to allow people to do this, to own past mistakes and be given the opportunity to seek self-improvement and change. Promise change. Phew. A lot, I know. Thanks for listening. And there you have it. Facade management, sense of entitlement, lack of accountability, festooned with manipulations, chief of which are pity plays, triangulation, promised change, false contrition, false compassion. The mealy-mouthed, empty words of a narcissist in action, looking to assert control over the readership, indirectly asserting control over other people, trying to stabilise the threat to control that has occurred as a consequence of her exposure as a thoroughly unpleasant individual, actually a narcissist, and of course seeking to prevent the loss of residual benefits arising from the backlash that has occurred so that brands want to distance themselves from her. This was not occasioned at an earlier juncture. Why? There was no need for her narcissism to do it, so she didn't do it. Her narcissism has compelled her to do it now because of the threats to control, the need for fuel, and the threats to her residual benefits. She can't see this because she's an unaware narcissist. She can't see this because the narcissism will not allow her to see this. The narcissism has to ensure that she thinks that she's doing all of this for the most noble of reasons, to cause her to do it, to nullify the threats to control, to assert control, to gain the fuel, and to acquire and maintain the residual benefits. This is an excellent example of the behaviour and dynamics of an unaware narcissist, and it behooves you, dear and valuable listeners, to share this material far and wide, whilst we strike as the iron is hot, so that more people utilise a high-profile example, so that they first of all don't fall for this claptrap, as some people will do, that people actually understand what is going on, and also quite possibly to enable them to make the bridge between this kind of behaviour and what they might be experiencing in their own lives. Do like these videos, ensure you subscribe to them, and just as importantly, Share them far and wide. Make sure your notifications are turned on. YouTube can be a little rascal at times and tries to prevent you getting notifications of my excellent material. Let's nullify that threat to control together. I'm HG Tudor. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for listening.